به جای سر به سر بودن تو دنیا به جای در به در بودن تو دنیا به سر بودن تو دنیا به جای در به در بودن تو دنیا
presented by Birla Institute of Management Technology, Greater Noida, along with NHRDM in association with our knowledge partner, Aeon Hewitt. I am Shailaja Iyengar, Associate Professor BIMTech, Bhubaneswar at the moment, and I am your anchor for the evening. And before we proceed, I have a request. Please switch off your cell phones or put them on silent mode. Thank you very much. On behalf of the organizers, BIMTech, Aeon Hewitt and NHRDM, thank you very much for the overwhelming response. In fact, the hall is already full and I'm not sure if we can accommodate any more. Aeon Hewitt has been our long-time partner in this journey of HR Roundtable since its inception in 2011. And we have Mr. Ajay Soni, who is here from Aeon Hewitt. Thank you very much for being here with us, Ajay. I also take this opportunity to thank the Bhubaneswar chapter of NHRDM for all the support extended in conducting this summit here. Mr. Kamal Singh is here. Thank you very much, sir, for all your support and encouragement. I also take this opportunity to inform you that BIMTech Noida has completed 26 years since its inception. And in its 25th year, Bhubaneswar campus was commenced in August 2013. So we are very much present here in the city. We have PGDM as a flagship program. And today we have Dr. Prithvi Yadav, Director Bhubaneswar, and also Dr. V.K. Das, Professor and Advisor with us, and other fraternity and students of this campus, some of whom you may have already met. So thank you very much for being here with us. We also have some of our alumni whom you'll be able to meet post the meeting. During the year 2013 and 14, we have conducted 4 similar HR roundtables in metros like Delhi, Mumbai, Hyderabad and Pune on the theme of art and science of developing leaders with different sub-themes. And we have received tremendous response from all the HR fraternity in the various places. In Delhi and Mumbai this year the sub-theme was Leading Change, What Transformation Means. In Hyderabad it was Is Your Leadership Right? And in Pune the sub-theme was Leadership the India Way. This 5th roundtable at Bhubaneswar is also the second in this city. We had one before our campus could commence last year. Our sub-theme for this evening is Driving Innovation and Building Diversity. A very quick look at today's program. Post the welcome address, Professor Sunil Samra will initially share the insights, some insights on the topic of today's discussion, and this will be followed by a panel discussion. I now invite Dr. Chaturvedi, Director BIMTech, Greater Noida, to deliver the welcome address. Briefly to introduce him, Dr. Chaturvedi is a professor and director of BIMTech Greater Noida. In his more than 3 decades of experience in teaching, research and academic administration, he has spearheaded 4 new contemporary programs in Noida. As former director of AICT, He has been associated with formulation of policies, planning, regulation, and control of management education, as well as other disciplines under technical education. With a master's in commerce and doctorate in business management, Dr. Chaturvedi has initiated many activities to build the research profile of business education and has contributed to the launch of a national report for India. He was conferred the honorary professorship by the State Istvan University of Hungary in 2007. His views on contemporary issues are regularly sought by leading electronic channels and newspapers, and he has several books and research papers articles to his credit. Dr. Chaturvedi has been invited in national and international conferences as speaker. He has been instrumental in defining the concept of Education Promotion Society for India, that is the EPSI, which is a national association of education institutions to facilitate development of the education sector. He is a board member of several business schools, engineering colleges, universities, companies, NGOs, etc. Dr. Chaturvedi, I now request you to deliver the benefits.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a matter of great pleasure that the 12th edition of our HR Roundtable on Art and Science of Developing Leaders, presented by BIMTech in association with the National HRD Network and Ion Hewitt, is being held at Bhubaneswar. Bhubaneswar, a city steeped in history, not only capital of the state of Odisha, but also an emerging destination for higher education, industry, tourism, arts and culture. It is the city where one can see a true blending and bounding of tradition with modernity. In today's gathering, I can see many stalwarts from industry, civil services, media, and academic world. We are really delighted to have such a distinguished gathering today who represent the very respected intelligentsia of the state of Odisha. Ladies and gentlemen, today's theme is driving innovation and building diversity. And we have a very impressive panel of speakers who bring their vast and rich leadership experience to this forum. First of all, I would like to extend a warm welcome to Mr. Rajiv Dubey, National President, National HR, and also President Group HR, Mahindra & Mahindra. Mr. Dubey has set an ambitious agenda for National HRD Network, which is premier body, national body for HR professionals. And I've been told by Mr. Kamal Singh, Director General, that under his leadership, NHRDN is currently trying to change the HR profession, and there are 16 committees which are working very hard to bring changes in HR profession and to put it at the international level, because now the Indian companies are becoming more and more global in their operations, in their approach, their leadership. So hearty welcome to Mr. Rajiv Dubey. Let me also welcome Mr. Ajay Soni, practice leader, leadership consulting for Asia Pacific, your Hewitt. This consulting firm has been our partner for last 2.5 years. Seeing that there should be a representation of the upcoming female leadership of India. In Odisha, when we have come here 2 years back, we have approached a very successful entrepreneur, and last time we could not bring her in this program, but today she is with us. Hearty welcome to Mrs. Jackie Panda, MD, Ordinary Committee. We have some other leaders from the industry Mr. Sarad Acharya, Director HR, Neyveli Lignite Corporation, Mr. Shyama Charan Padhi, Director HR, Nelco, and also Mr. Suresh Tripathi, VP HR of Tata Steel. These gentlemen are known in the industry for their dedicated practice of leadership. I request you to welcome them and other distinguished delegates to huge audience. In today's roundtable, the illustrious panelists will help us to figure out how leadership builds diversity and drives innovation. We have certain issues for the consideration of the panel. What are the global trends about the relationship between diversity and innovation? How are the Indian leaders performing in driving innovation and building diversity? Are leading Indian companies comparable to Western MNCs in the promotion of innovation and diversity? Since BIMTech belongs to the higher education sector, we should also ask a question to ourselves, as well as all the Indian universities and institutions, as to how they are using innovation to deal with some of the daunting challenges before higher education, like rising fees, declining number of students, disconnect between academia and industry, and of course the acute shortage of faculty. I have tried to update myself about some of the researches on this topic. Global researches suggest that diversity positively affects innovation. So it is good for India. We have a lot of diversity in our population, in our culture, in our approach, in our philosophy, in our thought process. Sustainable growth would be impossible to achieve without robust institutional mechanism for innovation. The Harvard Business Review has recently published findings of a research on this issue. According to this survey of 1,800 professionals, 40 case studies, numerous focus groups and interviews, there is a compelling evidence that diversity unlocks innovation and drives market growth. Under this study, researchers scrutinized two kinds of diversity: inherent and acquired. Inherent diversity involves traits you are born with, such as gender, ethnicity, and sexual orientation. Acquired diversity traits are gained from experience. The HBR study finds that companies with two-dimensional diversity out-innovate and outperform others. According to this study, leaders need both inherent and acquired diversity to establish an innovative culture. Leaders are also expected to demonstrate 6 behavioral traits which unlock innovation across the board. These are: ensuring that everyone is heard, making it safe to propose novel ideas, giving team members decision-making authority, sharing credit for success, giving actionable feedback, and implementing feedback from the team. Leaders who give diverse voices equal airtime are nearly twice as others to unleash value-driving insights. These findings constitute a powerful dimension of the importance of diversity and innovation in the business. Now, let me share some of my thoughts about the importance of innovation for higher education sector. This sector in India and across the world is facing serious challenges, as I submitted earlier. Potentially declining student applications despite the increasing number of young people. Population is increasing, but the number of applications are going down. Changing needs of society and industry, rampant excess capacity, and creation of new capacity by cloning existing systems are a few of these challenges. This sector is therefore also in need of serious innovation. The Western Western world has seen a phase of rapid escalation in cost of education. President Obama has talked about it. But declining numbers of students and outcomes. Similar problems are coming in India, although we are already confronted with problems of large numbers entering the job market. Affordable access to quality education has been an internal challenge, particularly for countries like India. One initiative to address this in the Western world has been the launch of MOOCs, massive open online courses. A similar initiative in India is the NPTEL, the National Program of Technology Enhanced Learning, which seeks to make available quality instructions, for example, from the IITs to engineering colleges in the far-flung corners of the country. Although largely focused on engineering, this program needs to broaden its scope to include other disciplines too. For example, management. I think some of the schools will have to take initiative, and I can assure you that BIMTech will of course be one of them. This is one such area of innovation in education. However, many more are needed to effectively address the aspirations of our growing youth and to reap the demographic dividend. Let me conclude by sharing some of my thoughts about the future of innovation in India. The National Innovation Foundation, NIF, has declared this decade, that is 2010-2020, as the innovation decade. So we are in the fourth year of this decade. How innovative are we today as a nation? The Global Innovation Index 2011 shows that India is ranked 69th among 125 nations. So we are in the middle. During the last few years, Indian thought leaders in innovation domain, and they are taken very seriously around the world, like the late C.K. Prahlad, Dr. R.A. Mashelkar, Professor Vijay Govindarajan, and Dr. Rishikesh Krishnan have given many path-breaking concepts. What are these concepts? These are frugal innovation. Gandhiji talked about frugal living style, frugal culture. Now, this concept is being applied in innovation. Reverse innovation. Vijay Govindarajan has done immense work in this area, that how innovations developed in India, because India is the place where you can develop new products, innovative services, innovative ideas on very moderate cost, and then that innovation can be transferred to the developed world. Reverse innovation, nanovation, Gandhian innovation, and also innovation. And in a higher view, may I add that much discussed concept of jugaad, although it cannot be compared with innovation, it also needs due classification. Jugaad is improvisation, but in many situations in our country, we need improvisations and jugaad also. Late C.K. Prahlad and Dr. R.A. Mashelkar have co-authored an article titled Innovation's Holy Grail in the HBR, which talks about Gandhian innovation. 2013, this article was published. It means getting more from less for more and more people. Getting more from less for more and more people, not just for more and more profit. This idea seems to have caught the imagination of the world. I am hopeful that this roundtable in Bhubaneswar will provide new insights on all vital issues which I have submitted, which are related to the challenging role of leadership in driving innovation and building diversity. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, a hearty welcome to all of you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chaturvedi, for setting the tone for this evening's discussion, and I'm sure it's a lot of food for thought for our panelists. In the meantime, may I please invite Professor Sunil Samra of BIMTech to join us on the stage for the keynote session. Professor Sunil is Professor of Strategy and International Business at BIMTech, Greater Noida, in the Center for International Business and Policy. An alumnus from IIM Lucknow and honors in economics, he has over 25 years of multi-sector corporate experience across banking, media and entertainment, manufacturing and also consulting. He has worked and consulted with organizations such as the Exim Bank of India, the World Bank, ITC Limited, Reliance ADAG, Moser Bayer, European Economic Commission, Abhishek Industries, Balance Scorecard Collaborative, Customer Lab in India, and the Aditya Birla Group, amongst others. He has trained extensively in international business strategy with Arthur D. Little at Cambridge, Massachusetts. He has also trained and practiced extensively in strategy execution and Balance Scorecard Collaborative under the thought and practice leadership of Drs. Kaplan and Norton of Harvard Business School. I request Professor Sunil Sangra to deliver the keynote address.
Thank you, Sheldon. Good evening. Sorry about that. I'm delighted to be here today because the subject that I'm going to be talking about is something I think extremely relevant. And if you happen to look at the vision, mission, values, or these kind of statements of any organization in India or overseas, chances are high that somewhere while reading these statements, you will encounter the word innovation. If not the word innovation, the thought of innovation may be expressed in some other words. So what we're going to be talking about is setting the context, setting the tone in terms of what is innovation. My session is going to be about 20-25 minutes and broadly structured into three parts. The first part is why innovation. We're all talking about it, but why is it so important, if at all? The second part would be about how do we go about, how do we define innovation, particularly in the context of an organization, in the context of business. And the third part would be how can individuals and organizations build the capability to perhaps innovate. Yeah. So that's the broad structure. And in the beginning, I would like to talk about Joseph Schumpeter. Joseph Schumpeter, as you might know, is considered to be the father, the founder, the thinker originally about entrepreneurship and innovation-related entrepreneurship. And the term he used was very interesting, which is creative destruction. And creative destruction, if you take a look at it, is a fundamental aspect of nature. Everything that we see around us, most things in fact, have a certain lifetime beyond which the old gives way to the new. And that is where perhaps innovation comes in and plays a role in the context of a business organization. And like it says, innovation becomes the driver for economic change, for societies, for economies, and so on. Let's talk about a few companies. There's something common about all these companies. Anybody? Absolutely. Why? Think about it. There is something else which is common about these companies. Each of these companies is an iconic company, or was an iconic company. Tremendous brand equity, great managerial talent, access to excellent financial resources, yet these companies have ceased to exist in the form that they were. For example, Motorola is there today, but as a part of Google. Particularly talk about the handsets business, right? Research in Motion, BlackBerry at its peak had a market capitalization of $125 billion, and currently Frameworks are looking at buying it for about $4 billion. Kodak as a company has gone bankrupt, dominating the photography market in the world, 70% global market share. Can you beat that? Yeah. And the company is bankrupt today. Nokia, we're all aware of, now bought out by Microsoft for $7 billion, also had a peak market capitalization again of about $225 billion. So there is tremendous learning from failure. And in the sessions that I have classes with the MBA students or with the corporate sector and executive education, I try and cover examples both from failures as well as successes. Okay? And therefore, let's try and look at a few of these things in a little more detail. Okay? Technology is beginning to play a huge role. Here are just a few examples of how various sectors have seen significant disruption because of the development of new technology. We just passed 1st of January, that's the time when we greet friends and relatives. I remember till about 10 years back, I used to go and buy a stack of cards in December, send them out to friends and relatives. I don't do that anymore. I don't know how many of you do that. Because now it's all either an SMS or a phone call or an email, right? So think about the company, all the companies whose sole business is greeting cards. What does a company like that do? Right? And the change, the disruption that we are talking about is going to be there in almost every sector. The only thing that might vary is the pace of change. Some sectors are prone to more change, others change much faster. For example, if you look at social media, okay, it took about 90 years for the telephone to reach about 150 million users a year. For the television, about 30 odd years. For cell phones, about 10 years. For iPod, about 7 or 8 years. Facebook, 5 years. It can be overwhelming. Think about it. What's happening faster? And even in sectors which are not technology oriented, these are technology oriented companies, but even in sectors which are relatively more stable, the change may take longer, but the change will come. And therefore the issue that comes up before us is, how do we as organizations, how do we as leaders structure ourselves and build a capability to be able to adapt and respond to change using innovation as the advantage. So therefore, something which Charles Darwin had said, very simple, but how true. It's not about how strong we are. The examples of the 5 companies that I just shared with you, and there are so many other examples, just go to show that your strength is not going to take you through forever. It's your ability to adapt to change, to innovate, come out with new products, new services, which is going to take you through. So let's talk a little more about this. So it's at the core of economic vitality. It drives growth, creates jobs, builds wealth, gives employees a new purpose, revitalizes organizations, and enhances the lives of consumers, obviously, through great products and services. So the question is, what are we talking about? What is innovation? And if you push people to give an answer to this question, what is innovation? The chances are that the first answer is going to go around, it's about a new product or a new technology. Okay? Push people a little harder, and people will start talking about processes. And when you talk about a process, it's going to be we're going to be basically talking about process from the perspective of operations, manufacturing or service delivery, and so on. Right? But innovation has much broader possibilities. And let's take an example at what these could be. Here is a definition of business innovation that I found extremely simple, yet comprehensive in terms of what the scope of business innovation could be. And it's essentially talking about the creation of substantial new value to whom? For the customers and the firm, by creatively changing one or more dimensions of the business system. And which dimensions? We are talking about possibility of innovating across the value chain. So we're not just talking about a new product or a new service. We are not just talking about a new way of manufacturing or delivering that product or service. We are talking about the experience that the customer has. We are talking about the way it is delivered to the consumer, the platform that it is built upon, the way the brand is developed and communicated and nurtured and sustained over a period of time. And companies which are able to address innovation across the value chain are companies which are able to build a relatively enduring competitive advantage. And that is what I will talk about briefly when I talk about the process for innovation. Yeah? So at three levels. At the level of the individual, the process that an organization can follow, and at the level of the organization when we talk about leaders, HR practices, and so on. So at the level of the individual, very often in a class I would ask participants a question, how do you rate yourself on your capability to innovate on a scale of, let's say, 1 to 10, 10 being the highest? Okay? So there are people who say 5, 6, 7, so on. And my next question is, assuming you're a 5 or a 6, can you move to an 8 or a 9 or a 10? And I get both kinds of answers. Some people who come out with the thought that the ability to be creative and consequently be innovative is God-gifted. It's part of your genetic makeup, and therefore you can't do anything about it. And then there are others who say that no, perhaps it is something which is in our control, and we can make some changes. Let's look at some research that has been done. Yeah. Steve Jobs, Aaron there, the founder of eBay, Michael Dell Computers, Jeff Bezos of Amazon, and Scott Cook of Intuit, which is an innovative company manufacturing financial accounting software, developing financial accounting software. Okay. The research that I'm talking about was done by a group of professors at the Harvard Business School over a period of 6 years. And they interacted and interviewed over 3,000 managers and executives in the US. And the question, the thesis they were trying to develop is, what is it that makes innovators innovative? Okay? And the answers are interesting and also very simple. So imagine this is you. Okay? And that's your twin. Okay? And both of you are given a task of coming out with one creative idea, let's say in 1 week. Yeah? So you come up with your idea sitting alone in your room. Whereas your twin puts in a little more effort. Okay? And talks to other people, visits startups, samples new products, shows a prototype to other people. Who is likely to be more innovative? Sure. Yeah? So you may wonder, how come the other person is more innovative? And the answer lies in a study done of identical twins. Okay? And it was found that your genetic makeup contributes to 1/3 of your ability to be creative or to be innovative. So that 1/3 is probably, we can't do much about that. Okay? But the good news is, 2/3 is something that you can work with. Yeah? And that is what I want to talk about. The study done, the 6-year study with these 3,000 entrepreneurs and innovators revealed that obviously you're talking about an innovator, you're talking about a person who's an entrepreneur, a person who wants to challenge the status quo. He or she believes that the existing way of doing things or the existing product or service being offered is not the best way of doing it. And that conviction, that belief is what brings about the urge and the ability to challenge out the new, to try out the new idea or new thought. Okay? So we're talking about, at the outset, a certain amount of the ability to be, the courage that is required to challenge the status quo and taking risks. Okay? Having done that, we are talking about the behavioral skills. Okay? And these are about questioning, observing, experimenting, networking. Think about it. Observe a 2, 3, 4-year-old child. What do you see? Full of questions. Yes, no? Go back to your own childhood. Chances are you were also extremely questioning. Somewhere along the way, we have lost, most of us, lose that ability to continue to be as questioning as we were in childhood. And the whole thing about questioning is what is one of the initial building blocks of being more innovative or being more creative. For example, when Michael Dell formed Dell Computers, the question he kept asking was, why does a computer cost 5 times the sum of its parts? I'm talking about things like experimenting and observing. At the age of 14, Michael Dell's parents bought him a new laptop because he was a technology freak. Guess what he did? The moment they went home, he ripped the whole thing apart to see how it works. A 14-year-old kid. Yeah. The ability to observe. Okay. Observe things around us. Observe consumers in their natural environment where they are consuming a service or a product or shopping for a product or a service. And that observation can lead to great insights into what is it that consumers want or don't want. What job do they actually expect the product that they are buying to do for them? A famous saying in marketing, the consumer is not looking for a quarter-inch drill. What the consumer wants is a quarter-inch hole. And if you develop that perspective and observe consumers, suppliers, competitors, it will throw ideas in terms of how do you go about innovating. Networking. Today is an excellent opportunity to network. And if you really look at it, the chances are that most people who are there in this room would be from an HR or a leadership perspective. But when you're talking about networking in the context of innovation, we are talking about networking with people who we normally would not meet or network with. So if you're managing the operations of a plant, can you go and network perhaps with a sociologist? Can you network with someone who's 20 years older or 20 years younger? Can you network with someone from a different gender, from a different nationality? People who create these kind of networking opportunities for themselves are the ones who are able to develop a broader perspective and insight of what is happening around them and in society and economy and so on. And finally, it's about experimenting. Okay? Trying out an idea, building a rough prototype. Think about school days. Very often in school, you are asked to, and today especially, children are asked to work on projects. A project is nothing but a very rough prototype of something you want to express, convey an idea. Can we look at experimenting with the thoughts, the ideas that we are looking at? And finally, it is the ability to associate whatever we question, observe, network, and experiment. Can we associate all of these, synthesize all of these into a novel idea, a new business opportunity? For example, there is this wonderful book called The Medici Effect, written by a gentleman called Franz Johansson. And the opening part of the book gives an example of this architect called Mike Pierce. Mike Pierce is an architect based in Harare, in Zimbabwe. And Harare, like India, large parts of India, can get pretty hot in the summers. Temperatures can go 40 degrees plus. Mike Pierce is given a challenge by a large insurance company called Old Mutual in Zimbabwe. We want you to build a large office complex for us in downtown Harare, but we would like that we save on air conditioning costs and the investment that might go into air conditioning. Can you do something for us? Mike Pierce succeeded in the challenge. Guess where did he get the inspiration from? Mike also had a keen interest in observing the environment. Okay? And he went to the outskirts of Harare and he found there are these ant colonies who make their ant hills. Okay? And an essential condition for success of those ant hills is that the eggs will not hatch unless the temperature in the ant hill is maintained roughly at about 24 degrees Celsius. And they do that by putting a moist mud pack kind of thing at the base, a whole system of tunnels that they dig through the anthill, vents at the end of the tunnel, and ants positioned at each vent who close and shut the vent so that the airflow is directed in the entire anthill, circulating the air from the moist part. We implement the same principle as this building we built in downtown, and this building has no air conditioning costs. Right? The idea is, let's be open for intersections. Intersections means taking a fragment of an idea from here, a second one from here, connecting it to the third, and resulting in new possibilities. The famous term that Steve Jobs used for it, connecting the dots. It's this ability to connect the dots that makes the innovators truly innovative. And if you look at it, these 5 skills of questioning, observing, networking, experimenting, associational thinking, okay, there is nothing that prevents us from doing more of these than what we are doing currently. Can't we be more questioning? Can't we be more observant? Can't we try out new ideas with rough experiments and prototypes? Can't we network more effectively? And can we develop the ability with practice to try and associate different experiences into something new and something new? So this is at the level of the individual. Yeah. Let's look at the process from the perspective of an organization. Okay? It's a disciplined process of diverging and converging. If you want to embark on an innovation program in your organization, it may be a good idea to start with letting your team loose, inviting ideas from multiple sources, with the objective of generating hundreds of ideas. I'll share with you examples of 2 companies in terms of how do they do it. And having developed these hundreds of ideas, see how can the ideas be combined into some possible meaning business propositions, and from a process of diverging, move to a process of converging on a few chosen, narrowed down business opportunities. And then you start investing money and resources into developing those further. Yeah. A holistic definition of business innovation, what I mentioned earlier, let's not look at just developing a new product. Let's not just look at improving the existing product with a new variant or a new feature. Can we try and approach the entire value chain of our organization's activities, of our business? And if we can do that, you're talking about building business models which are more enduring and difficult to imitate. Sourcing ideas from everywhere, getting more dots, better dots, what I mentioned earlier about the individual skills, translating that into an organizational process. It's all about building dots, building ideas. About a few months back, I had worked with a team of 25 mid-career MBA students in a full-time MBA program. And these 25 students were from 15 different countries. When I say mid-career, average experience was about 7 to 8 years, across sectors. And these students were working in 5 teams, each team competing with the other, and trying to address the innovation growth challenge of a client who paid for this, by the way. Okay? And in a matter of 6 weeks, the team, the 5 teams were able to come out with product market opportunities, which helped the company develop a 5-year pipeline of innovative offerings. It's about the discipline of doing it. It's not that it's not science. Right? And all this requires, I'm not talking about diversity separately because through my talk, you will hopefully see that how diversity is important at various aspects of the innovation process. And connect the dots into a viable business concept by going across your value chain, okay, and coming out with an innovative offering. The Medici effect is something which I just shared with you. Well, let's come down to the organizational level, the leader in the organization. Okay, and this is where things start to get a little more interesting in the context of the gathering that we have today. Okay, because you will find that there are a lot of paradoxes. Innovation talks about a tolerance for failure. Innovation is talking about dealing with something which is uncertain, unknown. Okay? If you want to be successful every time, you cannot innovate. Period. It just can't happen. And most organizations, most management, most thinking is about getting the process right all the time, being right all the time. If you want to develop an innovative culture in your organization, you need to think through this paradox. You need to look at courage. Can you encourage your people to have the courage and experiment with new ideas, new thoughts, new processes? Provide the time. When I say that, for example, when I say provide the time, companies like 3M, Google, Corning also, they allow their staff, their engineers, to spend 15 to 20% of their paid working time on projects of their individual choice. Of course, there is a process for vetting the projects that the individuals are working on. But the whole idea is allow people to give expression to their creativity, their thoughts, and so on. And able to provide the time for them. Encourage courage. The company called IDEO. IDEO is perhaps the world's most reputed product design and innovation firm. And their mastery is the process of innovation rather than any particular product or industry. And IDEO talks about a very simple thing, fail forward. That means build a prototype now, let the prototype fail, take the learning from the prototype, improve the prototype, and go about achieving what you finally set for yourself. Yeah. Think small. In a large company, you'd say, hey, this is too small for us. So it doesn't merit the kind of attention, resources, time, investment, because we are a 10,000 crore company. We don't look at anything below a 2,000 crore opportunity. Okay? But a lot of innovation is about starting small. Big things and small beginnings. Tolerating risk and fostering connection with external stakeholders. For example, P&G as a company. Till about 12, 13 years back, P&G was a largely inward-looking company. A.G. Gaffney, the current chairperson of P&G, is on record to say that. Okay? Until they realized that they can multiply their ability to innovate if they start collaborating with external partners, including the suppliers and so on. So P&G's research staff is 15,000 people. Their top 10 suppliers put together have a research staff of 50,000 people. Can you build processes and adequate technology platforms for these to collaborate? If you do that, you're talking about multiplying your capacity to innovate. And since then, P&G's innovation track record has grown 3 times. Yeah. So we need to look at, leaders need to look at some of these things in terms of HR practices, nurture passion, celebrate ideas. What can the leader do? What can the organization do about that? Okay? How do you develop a system of, how does a performance management system in an organization factor in innovation? These are issues we need to think about. And maximize diversity. So for example, when IDEO, when I spoke about IDEO, when they work on a challenge for a client, chances are high that it will be a team of 8 or 9 people. And this team of 8 or 9 people can include a linguist, a sociologist, a medical student, a Harvard graduate, a marketing expert, an engineer. It is all about, remember what I said earlier, it's about dots. It's about having several dots. The more dots, the greater the possibility to innovate. And to increase those number of dots, that will happen if you have diversity. Yeah. Corning as a company, for example, has developed a structured process, a company which has been thriving on innovation for the last 160 years. And they have a structured process for taking hundreds of ideas and narrowing them down into, on a regular cycle, into 3 or 4 business opportunities which are relevant to the areas in which Corning operates. Okay. Like Dr. Chaturvedi mentioned, that we are talking a lot about improvisation and jugaad, but India as a country needs to go beyond improvisation to actual innovation. And beginning to happen in the various sectors, we need a lot more of that. Okay. My last slide. An example of 4 young students from Stanford University, one of them of an Indian background, given the challenge of working on an extreme affordability project, come and spend time in India, travel in the rural areas, identify that infant mortality is a major problem. Newborn babies do not survive in large numbers, right? An incubator costs $2,000. I'm sorry. They don't have, the rural areas don't have that kind of money to pay. They develop an incubator which costs $25 and works extremely effectively. And countries like India and the emerging world need that, because between now and 2050, the world is going to have 2.5 billion people, of which 2 billion people are going to be in emerging economies. The need is there. The way to get there is there. Leaders need to try and factor that in there. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Professor Sunil, for endorsing the idea of connecting the dots. I quite like the idea of doing it shortly. The last session for this evening will bring out the HR perspective on the importance of driving innovation and building diversity. Farid Zagaria, the Indian-American journalist and author and host of CNN's flagship Foreign Affairs show, said that in a State of the Union address, President Barack Obama mentioned the word innovative 9 times, more than any other president ever. According to Donald Pan, this highlights a key point that in this new era, rife with volatility and ambiguity, innovation is critical in sustaining organic growth and securing success in a globally competitive environment. In today's technology-driven world, Apple and Google stand out as innovative organizations, but despite the huge amount of data and information, the question that comes out is, what is it that makes some companies more innovative than others? That still remains a mystery. While it's widely acknowledged there's a strong connection between innovation and diversity, the big challenge is to help leaders understand that connection. When Steve Jobs said the source of wealth and capital in this new era is not material things, it is the human mind, the human spirit, the human imagination, and our faith in the future. He added a third angle of inclusive culture. According to him, when people are enlightened and encouraged to harness their creativity and to generate value, fertile soil is nurtured on which seeds of innovation can blossom into opportunity of sustained future growth, some of which Sunil already mentioned in his presentation just now. Aeon Hewitt's research suggests organizations have realized that diversity and innovation increases productivity and economic growth, which most top Indian companies have understood. The Aeon Hewitt Best Employer study unveiled another clear benefit of including diversity in HR agenda, that is higher engagement. So both the diversity in workforce actually works out to be a win-win proposition for employer and employee. I'd like to reiterate Dr. Chaturvedi's queries which he posed in his welcome address. What are the global trends about the relationship between diversity and innovation? How are the Indian leaders performing in driving innovation beyond building diversity? Are Indian companies comparable to Western MNCs in the promotion of innovation and diversity? I'm sure Mr. Ajay Soni will be asking some more questions from our panelists today. To discuss this at length, ladies and gentlemen, I take this opportunity to invite Mr. Ajay Soni, our moderator for the session, on the dais. Mr. Soni is a practice leader, leadership consulting. Ajay's experiences include developing leadership strategy for organizations, imparting executive coaching, conducting development cycles, talent and leadership assessments, etc. He is a part of Ian Hewitt's global leadership team, and he has been an advisor to various corporations in the Asia Pacific and has consulted over 150 organizations across the region. It's a pleasure having you again with us. It's a woman's world, so I take this opportunity to invite our first panelist, Mrs. Jaggi Panda, to join Mr. Soni on the dais. Mrs. Panda is co-founder and managing director of Ortel Communications Limited. She has more than 15 years experience in the broadband and broadcasting industry. Orissa TV, a regional language television channel which includes Tarang Music and Prarthana, a spin-off of Ortel Communications, are based in Bhubaneswar. Starting from scratch and building a business with 1,500 employees, Mrs. Panda has been acknowledged in Eastern India as a role model for women entrepreneurs. A science graduate from Osmania University and an alumnus of IIM Ahmedabad, Mrs. Panda is also an active member of CII, having served an unusual term, 2 terms as chairperson of the Odisha chapter and also chairperson of its Women Empowerment Committee National Council. Mrs. Panda has pioneered several concepts in Eastern India like widespread employee stock ownership, accessing venture funding, building a successful technology-related business in the state, which has traditionally been home to mineral and manufacturing companies. She's been awarded the Young Global Leader at the World Economic Forum in 2008. An honor to have you with us today, ma'am. Now, I'll be going in a random order, not necessarily in order of seniority. To join the panel, I invite Mr. Rajiv Dubey, President, Group HR, Corporate Services, and member of Mr. Dubey joined Mahindra & Mahindra in January 2004 after a career spanning 29 years in Tata Group. He was with Tata Steel for 21 years and then moved on to Tata Metallics and Rallis India. His key focus areas are HR and IR initiatives for the group, the aftermarket sector, corporate communications, government relations and infrastructure. He is also chairman of Mahindra Insurance Brokers and First Choice Services and serves on the board of several group companies including Mahindra Forging Europe, Mahindra Intertrade, Mahindra First Choice, Wheels and Mahindra Retail. He is chairman of the CSR Council and Corporate Governance Cell of the group, a member of the Group Sustainability Council and the Group Governing Council of the Mahindra Institute of Quality. He is an economics graduate from St. Stephen's, Delhi University, and also completed his MBA from the Yale School of Management, USA, as a J.N. Tata Scholar and was selected as a distinguished alumnus of the school. He is the president of the Employers Federation of India, co-chair of National Committee on Skill Development of CII, and serves on the CII National Committee of Leadership and HR and the CII Apex Council on Affirmation Action. Thank you for being with us here. I invite Mr. S.C. Padi, Director HR NALCO, to join the panel. In his prior assignment, Mr. Padi served as Director Personnel with Mahanadi Coals, and during his tenure, the most challenging aspects in the professional front was maintaining good IR with high morale and rehabilitation and resettlement of the villages, which numbered more than 400. A postgraduate in Labour and Social Welfare from Barampur University, Odisha, Mr. Padi has rich experience in the management of human resources gathered through his exposure in Tata Mines, NTPC and SGPNL. He has proven his strong HR sense with remarkable achievements in the professional field. He has been actively associated in wage revision and compensation package finalization of employers. He has proved relationship building as one of his core competencies by having constructive dialogue with operating trade unions of MCL, government agencies, local bodies, and projected affected families aimed at attaining lasting peace and harmony in the company to solve their issues. He presently holds the position of Regional Vice President and IBM Central Zone. And he's been awarded with the Best HR Leadership Award by the Asia Pacific HRD Congress in 2012. Thank you for being with us. Lastly, I invite Mr. Next, I invite Mr. S.K. Acharya, Director HR, Neyveli Lignite Corporation Limited, to join the panel. Mr. Acharya holds leadership position for the entire gamut of functions with a company net worth around 14,000 crores, engaging around 30,000 people in various parts of the country. While corporate HR of NTPC SAIL Power JV, under his leadership, the company bagged the Global HR Excellence Award of 2010-11 in the category of organization with innovative HR practices by World HRD Congress. He has received several awards like HRD Leadership and Leadership and Inspiration Award, etc., and several other awards. While Director of NLC Limited, the company has bagged the IPE HR Leadership Awards in the category of organization with the best HR in line with business, and also bagged the ET Now Talent and HR Leadership Awards. Widely traveled, well-trained in India and abroad, Sri Acharya lends his services in academics as a visiting faculty to many premier business schools and management institutions. He is presently chairman of NIPM Neyveli chapter and also member of the HR Committee of Scope India, and actively associated with promoting activities for enriching HR as a professional. Welcome to the panel. Last but not the least, I invite Mr. Suresh Tripathi, Vice President, HR. Mr. Tripathi is working in an HR professional for the last 30 years. Physics, Masters in Physics from Delhi University, and the PG Diploma in Social Work from University of Calcutta. He is an alumnus of Ashbourne Hill Management College, UK, and trained in a number of fields in HR. He started his career as management trained in SAIL and worked in various companies, including staff officer to the chairman before moving to HCL Ferro Systems. And he also had brief stints with Mascon Global Limited, and he joined SRF Limited, and then also the CEO with Sri Educare Limited, which was a new venture of the promoters of SRF in the field of education. He is handling integration of many acquired companies in South Africa, Thailand, and India. He's handled the whole gamut of HR management from the shop floor to the enterprise level. He's been conferred the HR Leadership Award at the Asia Pacific HRM Congress in 2010 and Pride of HR Profession during Indian Human Capital Summit in 2011. Welcome to the panel discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be an extremely exciting discussion with
What is sprint endurance? I didn't know you can have sprint endurance. She was being taught sprint endurance, and I did that sprint with her, and the outcome is I need a cushion now for my back. So I don't know, I diversified, I innovated, and now I'm suffering. You are rewarded, you're not recognized, so yeah, so that's a tough one. But seriously, sorry sir? Yeah. Yeah, and I got stuck in the process. We are really fortunate, running a little behind time. So I had thought there were a few things that I wanted to share from our Aon Hewitt research, but between Professor Shailaja, Professor Sunil, and Dr. Chaturvedi, we've covered a lot of things. Just to put in just two sentences, what I wanted to say was, in summary, that diversity if you have diverse workforce, you are able to deliver on your customer promise. So, if your diversity reflects your customers, then you will be able to deliver on your customer promise. Diversity, we also heard pretty clearly from various research, drives innovation. And innovation, we heard, drives long-term business success. And so, diversity and innovation, which is the topic today for us, is very important from business outcome perspective. Having said that, The panel here, ladies and gentlemen, has 150 cumulative years of experience. Very diverse. Very diverse. From physics honors to HR, business leadership, entrepreneur, business leadership, Rajiv, to HR, different industries from media to manufacturing and various industries. Leading HR, leading businesses, advising governments. That's the kind of diversity that you see. So hopefully we'll all innovate out here. Thank you for being here and part of this discussion. I want to start off with first question, which is open to everybody. The first question is, diversity has many dimensions. We didn't hear that so much earlier, but we talk about cultural diversity, we talk about nationality, we talk about gender, we talk about sexual orientation, we talk about the thought process itself being diverse. So I want to start with you, Jaggi, if you permit, to say, for your organization, which part of diversity is important and why? We need mics.
Sure.
I'm a good.
Thank you, Ajay. And let me first thank you for making sure that I was here 1 hour before the program started. But talking about diversity and innovation, I run 2 organizations. One is a media organization and the other one is broadband communication infrastructure. And I believe both of them should be treated differently. And if you ask me, what are the important, which ones I give importance to in terms of diversity, I would say almost all aspects of diversity would be important. May not be on the same level or same importance, but I would give importance to almost all the aspects of diversity because I do believe that the more diverse you are, the better it is. So as far as the media organization is concerned, the focus for us has always been creativity. And for the infrastructure, it has been more of, production and, operations and etc. So I think, but in both the cases, in both the organizations, our basic aim has been to bring in more diversity by getting people from different cultures, different genders. I have actually, being a woman myself, I have actually focused a lot in the media organization to get women to the ranks, because it's you would see more and more today that a lot of women get into the mid-level or entry level very easily, but it's very difficult to get to the top. So the mentoring and the hand-holding has been a major focus area for me in the media organization. And similarly in the infrastructure organization, it has been bringing diversity in terms of getting people from different experiences, different backgrounds, and different technical skills. So both of them have been treated differently as far as my organization is concerned.
Great, and in a while I'll come back to you. I'm very curious to understand. My observation, there are organizations that do not have women diversity, gender diversity. Then there are organizations that have gender diversity, but at the bottom of the pyramid. And as we go along, somewhere it gets missed out. I would love to get your view on how you've ensured, or how you're trying to ensure that even as you go into the leadership positions, you have diversity from gender point of view as you go along. But Suresh, thank you so much for being here. I know you are coming directly from the airport. You had a meeting in Ranchi, so really appreciate. But to get your thoughts on which aspect of gender, of diversity is important for your organization and why.
See, I represent Tata Steel here, and Tata Steel, as my fellow analyst here, Mr. Rajiv Dubey, he would also, he spent a lot of time there, he would also agree to that. The diversity was there right from the time of, the Tata Steel came into existence. And at that point of time, I think it was founder's vision that any place where we're going to set up this plant, it's going to be in remote area. And it is very essential that we represent whole country there. And that's why, because you need to attract talent from all across the country. And hence it is necessary that if we have a diversity which is representative of the country itself, then it will be easier for us to attract people from all over. And also, they will feel comfortable. Second, this kind of a diversity will also create that connect with all parts of the country. And I think one of the points you mentioned, that how that diversity also reflects in your business. Here, the kind of business we are in, steel making, steel also, it is needed at every part of the country. And hence, this diversity also connects us with every part of the country. The belief of the organization is that we believe quite a lot in the relationship, in long-term relationship. Now this kind of a diversity also helps in building relationship with that part of the country and that part of the culture, that part of ethnicity, that all the diversity builds that connect, and that connect helps the business in that continuity and long-term relationship. And that's why in a history of more than 100 years of this company, we find that there are fourth generation people who are working in the company. And if you go to the plant site, if you go to Jamshedpur, which is the first place where it came, you will find that every part of the country is represented there. And it has all been facilitated. You will find there different samaj there, different associations there, and they have all been facilitated with different kinds of centers and clubs and association bodies. And it was done very carefully in terms of making sure that there is representation from all parts of the country. And that is exactly what we are following now when we are setting up another plant here in Kalinganagar. This is one of the indices that we follow and review to see that we have true representation from all parts of the country, all parts of the, all kinds of culture, all religions, so that it's a very, very diverse group. Because it also helps us in bringing the tolerance for diversity. Because you coexist, and you have got an example that you can coexist and become world class if you have this kind of a diversity. So that's how it is. So for us, it is the mix of the whole culture, ethnicity, communities, religion, representing whole of country.
Right.
That's what diversity we follow.
So, interestingly, before I move on, I'll pose a question to you and then you can do it later. But I was looking at this research by Forbes magazine, and very interestingly, when I was looking at that, I also found the interview that you had given to Forbes, so congratulations. But that research was saying there are two primary reasons why diversity is important. As I said, one, it connects to the customer and you're able to deliver on the customer goals. And second is innovation. Only 30% of participants, this was global research, 250 either CEOs or senior leaders, only 30% said it is just to make, ensure that for the sake of diversity, we have a tick box. So only 30% said that. Otherwise, they said either business goal is being driven or innovation. And so my follow-up question to you later would be around, is this diversity that you've created at Tata Steel, is it creating innovation? And if yes, then how? And if no, why not? So I'll come to you, Sarath, with your thoughts on which diversity is important.
Thank you, Ajay. Good evening to all. It's a nice platform to share my views. I represent Navy Lignite Corporation, which originally started as a lignite mining company, one of its kind in India. And over the years, we diversified into power generation. So now in fact, with our own fuel coming from our mines, we are concentrating more on power generation. Originally it started in Tamil Nadu, basically a rural place near Pondicherry. And when it started, people mostly from Tamil Nadu were there. But over the years, we have been expanding very rapidly. We have spread our wings to many parts of the country, to different states, to different regions, and also a couple of footsteps we have taken abroad. So while I value all aspects of diversity, but here, one thing I will tell, in this company, building diversity and harnessing it is of paramount importance in the sense that being located at Neyveli, having people mostly belonging to Tamil Nadu, we find driving the business across the country would not be that easy. So our recruitment and talent acquisition process is now basically aimed at recruiting people from all states, regions, that facilitates integrating them and harnessing their potential for establishing new setups and also making the people there feel that yes, beyond Tamil Nadu, beyond this pocket, there are so many new things and good things are happening. So that basically it started with a business requirement, but now over the years what we have made, it is Holi and Diwali, which are not basically celebrated in that part of the country. So they all join together in celebrating Holi and Diwali. And of course, in different parts like Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha also, we have a joint venture. When we take people from here or send our people here, we feel the pulse of the people where, okay, I think without this also I can reach the audience. Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. So that through our people, we feel the pulse of the population around where we are going to have our business facilities, to know them better, to map their expectations, and to do something new for them. That idea, basically, we take from the people who belong to that. That help us creating specific tailor-made programs, modules, values, where business is paramount, but at the same time, creating just not the affluence I will not tell, but helping the people surrounding our project areas, maybe around 30 kilometers around in the first phase, and also going beyond that all over the country. We have a name in the CSR field as NLC as one of the pioneers.
Okay, thank you. Rajiv, coming to you. I just wanted to mention one of the research we do is Top Company for Leaders, and this research is a global research which says which are the companies that have really great leadership pipeline in their organizations to fuel the business growth. And M&M is one of the global winners on Top Company for Leaders, so that's some fantastic practices I'm sure that Rajiv would like to share. I would like to modify the question a bit to say which element of diversity is important and how is the organization propagating that element of the diversity?
I mean, if I had to choose one, at this stage we are going global in a big scale, and therefore multicultural diversity and being able to cope with it, being able to be comfortable with it, having an open mind, that's the kind of diversity which would be most important.
Mindset.
It's about mindset, ultimately, yes. But it is about a mindset which is open, which is comfortable with different points of view, and which is curious.
Right.
And incidentally, all three are so critical for innovation.
Right. Right. And how are you propagating that in the organization?
These things have to work on many levers. So I think it's all the HR levers have to fire.
Right.
And whether you're talking about communication, you're talking about the reward and recognition system, very importantly the performance management and the talent management system.
Right.
If I had to choose one, I would say the talent management system. Maybe deciding who to get for what kind of post, who to promote, and to ask ourselves how good people are at this multicultural diversity, if you like, which essentially is about with people who have a different point of view and being curious.
Right. Right. Great. And you're a very innovative organization yourself, and maybe at some stage you'd like to share, how you've been able to, bring out the new models, for example, or you are the largest tractor manufacturer in the world now, and you in a very focused manner put that as a goal about 10 years back and then achieved that. So, if you would like to share some of those stories, that would be fantastic as we go along.
Sure.
So I come to Mr. Padi, your view on which element of diversity is important, and how is your organization driving that?
In fact, I'm working in National Aluminium Company in Bhubaneswar, so everybody is aware of the company. I'll have a little background about the company. The company is first PSU in aluminium sector, and when we started, we were in the golden days. Today, with the tough competition from our neighboring China, as well as the London Metal Exchange, which controls the price mechanism, the bottom line is slipping. The fact remains, when I joined the company about a year back, the LME price of 1 metric ton of aluminium was $1,996. Today, it is $1,656. Yesterday it was 50. So there is a decline of more than $300 per ton of aluminium. That goes the difficulty for maintaining, because your input cost and your infrastructure cost, fixed costs are remaining same, labor costs remaining same, and the cost of power increasing, you are in a difficult situation. Also, I'll give a startling fact, because because we are in the board room and we discuss, 1 paisa increase in the power, it cost 5 crores rupees a year as far as profit is concerned. So it is 2 rupees 50 paisa. If it is 255, I multiply 5 to 25 crores it costs. This being the situation, we have to have innovation. As a process innovation, technology advancement, taking technology to our ambit, so that today whatever the technology we have to rather discard them at a cost so that we match with the technology, advanced technology that is going on. The cost of inputs, like caustic soda is one component which is being used. That is used for our workout of the project report was about 2.5 to 3 of active silica. Now it is crossing the mines about 3.5 to 4. Automatically it increases the cost. And these circumstances, innovation is the only buzzword and it is only dream, and we have to dream and we have to eat, drink innovation. For that matter, technology management and also research and development. These are 2 things I should say that we have to diversify. So that whatever way we are gaining the experience, our existing experience, I should put into my R&D, even if it is necessary to go global, find out people, those who can tell, with the resources available. We can't change the resource. We have to use the resource. So under these circumstances, technology advancement should be the first priority. Second priority, I feel that our representation of women power, that is something it is less. That may bring more discipline, more decency, more amount of thought process are different. It's a more gender, male dominated. So I feel that that may help a lot in innovation and diversity. These are the two major factors I tell. But I will certainly appreciate and I will agree with Mrs. Shahid Manna that all have got that relevance and everybody influences the other. So we have to give importance to others. Thank you.
Great. Fantastic. I'd like to come back to some of the follow-up questions that I'd mentioned. And so, Suresh, you know, the diversity that we talked about, question to you, is that really driving innovation? If yes, how? If not, why not?
Actually, when you asked this question, I was wondering whether there was any thought of innovation behind this diversity. And I was trying to find an answer that, is it driving innovation anyway? And you know, what I think is that this diversity basically provides a kind of mindset amongst people that it's not a mix, it's diversity. So mix and diversity distinguish. Mix is where you lose your originality and get into something which is common. Whereas diversity is that you continue with your identity while living together. So there is a difference. It's a compound and mixture. You know, the two things, the compound and the mixture. So here I'm saying that diversity, that means people live with their own thoughts, while thoughts can be pulled together for a mix which could be a common thought. And I think that is where it probably would be helping. That people have their own ideas and they are allowed to live with their own ideas.
Right.
They are allowed to live with their thoughts. And those thoughts and ideas are picked up.
Right.
So people don't lose in terms of, or they're not forced to think in a way, rather they are allowed to think the way they want to think.
Right.
And that comes in handy when we have projects, when we have multiple initiatives in the organization, like we have initiatives called Aspire, or the initiative what we call as Kar Vijay Har Shikhar, you know. These are, you know, you look at different problems across the organization, business problems, live business problems, pick up people from different functions, different parts of the organization, make a team of youngsters and say that this is where it is and this is the problem that we have, and let's find out a solution to that. So since people are allowed diversity in terms of they're allowed with their thoughts, their thinking process, they have their independence, they all come together and come out with solution which is, you know, which is very innovative, very new, has multiple perspectives in it, because people, they carry different perspectives and they add to that. And hence the solution that comes out is very, very useful, practical, implementable, and you won't believe that every year we add to the bottom line close to about 500 to 1,000 crores through this process.
Wow.
And there is a target they run with this kind of project that happen. So I would say, in the hindsight, that this diversity is actually helping people to carry on with their own originality, individuality, and bring in that perspective which adds value to whatever, you know, whatever comes out as an outcome, as an innovation. That's where I would say.
Okay, that's terrific to understand that. And Jaggi, I come to you with the question which I had raised. Would you like to talk about that? Which was, you know, surely you're having diversity in the organization. Are you able to build that even in the leadership team? Or if you're in the process of doing that, how are you doing that?
Let me just quickly give you a little bit of a background of how you know, we're working to get more diverse. In the media company, for instance, we found through our experience that it's wonderful to have women on the team because they come up with really radical ideas. A lot of times I have experienced that men who work are on the team sometimes find these ideas ridiculous. And they turn down the idea saying, no, this is not a great idea because this is not traditional, it's radical. Now, so what we do is when we recruit people, one of the things I told my HR, or the targets I've given to the HR team is that for every 10 applications they get, men applications they get, they must get at least 3 to 4 applications from women to start with.
Right.
And this is for the top level.
Right.
So that way when we start recruiting or when we recruit people, we recruit them at a higher level rather than recruiting women at the mid or entry level. But as you know, there are more women at the entry level, and it's a challenge for us to see how to bring them up to the ranks. So we constantly work on mentoring them, but at the same time, we also sensitize the majority there, because women tend to be a minority most of the time. So we sensitize the majority there to how they should react. For instance, in a meeting, one of the rules is nobody will turn down anybody's idea. Every idea will be put on board. We will never say this is a ridiculous idea, first of all. So that's a taboo, because people lose marks for saying this is not a good idea. The word no, but, if is not allowed in a brainstorming session. So that's a start to sensitize them that every idea is good. So it depends on how the leaders take them, filter them, and implement them. So we have a core group of people, and we have several brainstorming sessions with various levels of people. And one of the things that we do is sensitize them to how to deal with women, because they come with different strengths.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and you triggered some thoughts in my mind. I was sometime back with Chanda Kochar, chairperson ICICI group, and I was talking to her and I said, what is it that you bring different to the table because of being a woman leader? And she said, no, nothing. I've fought equal basis with men, and that's the way it is. And then she said, no, hold on. I think women do bring a softer side, which is different. And to your point, there is different sensitivity that a woman leader brings, and it's very important that the leadership team takes advantage of that. The second trigger from what you were mentioning about mentoring was that we see a lot of organizations that are talking about enhancing gender diversity use mentoring and not fully succeed. And therefore, there is a new concept that is coming up, which is sponsorship, which is going beyond mentoring. To say, if you're a mentor for a woman leader, you need to sponsor her, because there is a tendency that we've seen, or that industry is seeing, which is that women leaders would not do that self kind of selling or showcasing their own abilities, which somebody else has to do for them. So we are seeing increasingly in case of organizations that are talking about gender diversity in the leadership teams, they're talking about sponsorship as against ahead of mentoring. So those were some of the parts that came to my mind. I have a question for the entire panel, and this is coming from a recent experience that I had with a client. This client, I can't take the name, is a FMCG company, and has a stated philosophy of 25% women leaders in their leadership team. One of the leadership positions fell vacant because somebody moved abroad, and then they had to look for, there was opportunity to have a woman leader. They did look around internally in the organization. There were some very worthy successors, but unfortunately were not women. So they went out, looked around, found one, who in the eyes of some of the people was 19 on a 20 of a lady successor who was a male from within the organization, but they hired that external talent. Views of the panel on that. 19, woman leader, 20, ready gentleman, what do you do?
I think it's an insult to women to give them a position, even if they are not up to the mark. So I would say 19 out of 20, go for the guy who's 20. There are enough women who will be 20, there'll be women who will be 21 or 20. So I don't think, and certainly in Mahindra's we don't have a quota. We believe that women can more than match up to men. And, do it by osmosis.
I don't go by. Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
That's fun. That's fun.
Being a woman, I have a slightly different opinion, and that is that I would go for the woman even if she's 19, simply because I think she brings something so important or so different to the table that a lot of people don't recognize yet. because the definition of capability or the definition of good performer today is quite different and it is quite skewed towards the male members. Going forward in the 21st century, you will see that compassion, collaboration will be more valued. Now, for a woman, I think her biggest strength is compassion and collaboration. Vis-a-vis a man where it is authoritative and power wielding. And I think going forward in the more globalized we get, the more flatter the world gets, I think these two qualities of compassion and collaboration are going to be extremely important, which today people don't recognize. So that one point is never given to that woman. And I would give that point because I understand that.
Okay.
But I have one, I have to express here.
The fun would have been at Rajiv responding.
But you know, compassion and collaboration are such important things going into that 19 or 20. So I don't agree with you that compassion and collaboration is for us, they're right at the top. And they're included in that 20 or 19.
I'm very tempted to debate, but I won't.
Please go ahead. I'm just telling you what facts are with us.
Soniji, I'll express here one thing only. In the mechanism of selection, because there is an internal candidate who is 20, and you are going to external agency or external environment to get, it's always good to have a mix of 75-20, 75 internal and 25 outside. That should be, so that new ideas can be. But the selection process, and if the mechanism is such to screen out, because one thing what happens, a person who works in an organization is a realist to the organization, his expectations. And once he is competent, his expectation. The next moment, he may leave the organization. So, if your mechanism is such that it can be proved that yes, C is 19, then I should say that C can be given. Because he's outsider. That one mark to have a mix of out and in. Because one thing we have to have the sentiment of the internal and at that level. But, so that's my view.
See,
Without entering into any debate, and my response...
You are very much a part of the debate. Think of it in the center.
Because for me, I believe for leadership positions, it is not male or female. It is the most deserving candidate to whichever sex he or she belongs. Doesn't matter. The deserving candidate should be given a chance to lead. Be it Kiran Majumdar Shaw, be it PepsiCo chief, be it Shraddha Kochar. So all those are real good examples. But at the same time, they are equally good examples of male leading the things. So nothing called that male or female. So that I said, I am not entering into a debate. It is the deserving position. It is the leadership qualities, and of course, compassion, understanding the people, mapping the people's pulse, and knowing the business model, driving the business, all the things are there. So with all the things present in a person who can lead the organization, yes, should come to the leadership position.
Right.
see, my answer is based on what you said, the facts. The facts is that in this organization, they want to have 25% women in the leadership position, right? Now, if this is there, that means there is a need in the organization felt that you should have more of women. Now, if that be so, it is just a little short in terms of whatever, 19 of 20 out of 20. So it's fair, because it's in need, it's in the direction which the organization has decided for itself, and hence it should be given to the women, even if there is a shade below. So that is what I would agree.
Yeah, I think how we are saying similar things. If I may just put a completion to that. I think what is being said is that 19 becomes 20 because of compassion, and that 20 becomes 21 because it's outside in and 75-25, and therefore it's 21 versus 20, and therefore the woman's decision. my own journey, I'm 25 years into the industry plus consulting, almost half split. The finest leader for me, finest manager for me was a lady. So I would go with you, man. And also, as a part of Top Company for Leaders study, we also met Indra Nui, chairperson of PepsiCo. We had the opportunity of meeting her. And we asked her a similar question, or not a similar question. We asked her, for leaders of tomorrow, what is going to be the most important competency? And she clearly came out and said emotional intelligence. So emotionality side is very important, and then probably, and that's not to say only women leaders have that. Anybody can have, but that emotionality is very important.
I'm sorry, I'm maybe entering into a debate, forgive me. Yeah. I think you need to use the whole mind, which combines the left and the right, the intellect and rationality, along with emotion and connection and empathy. I think it's the combination of the two that is required, and that will be powerful. I think I presume she is saying that in the West we take for granted that everybody has a strong left brain, we lack the right brain. Then it's okay, but I think really it's the people who can use the whole mind, who can combine left and brain and right, they are the ones who will be good leaders. In the VUCA word. Somebody said make sure you mention VUCA, I did mention.
Okay, great. So I have one more important question to cover before I open it up for the audience. So we covered the various aspects of diversity, and I think what we said was that a lot of those aspects are important. Some can be more important in some context to the other. And that does drive innovation, even if diversity is being done just for the sake of it, but it does lead to innovation and significant business results, 500 to 1,000 crores additional every year. So having said that, I want to also pose a point to say how, therefore, linked to innovation, how is organization, and each one of your organizations, being able to propagate innovation in your organizations and being able to create leaders who are who are able to innovate themselves, but are also able to create leaders who are innovative. Maybe we'd like to go the other way around, Adi, from your side. Innovation, how can you propagate leaders who are innovative and they create leaders who are innovative?
Basically, the company should have been level that non-political is powerful instrument. Once a person comes to the level of chairman, they are being next leading. There we don't consider the next is provide different positions. The person is working in HR, the person works in technical fields. Cross-functional competence. And the opportunity was individual first. Explanation that you can be in that unit, which is a production unit. HR or finance. Or a technical one coming. So that way,
job rotation. So you're saying
that's on that we have like regional exposure. Basically, I believe overall knowledge about technology expansion. I think so. We require a cross-functional exposure by way of relation. After shifting this is not, and certainly this helps that to have a person who is doing someone else. So I may not be able to have that confidence. So I'm looking once this exposure.
Great, thank you. Rajiv, your thoughts.
So, can you just repeat your question?
So my question is, innovation, how can you create leaders who are innovative and also leaders who then encourage innovation in their organization, I think we can just switch off this sound system, we don't need it. Because otherwise it's
So, can you hear me at the back? Yeah. Okay, the last time I asked this question, the answer came back, no, I can't, but carry on nevertheless. So, again, my answer, Ajay, and it's a little boring answer, is that you need all the HR levers. Especially, you need reward and recognition, you need communication, and you need talent management. Having said that, I think it is very important what kind of role models are talked about in the organization. And we tend to talk a lot and give a lot of prominence to people who have shown innovation in its various aspects.
I think that's a great point. And one of the findings of our top company for leaders research is that there is a very important thing called leadership brand that top companies have. And for example, a leadership brand of 3M will be talking about innovation, because their business is all about innovation. And so the leaders have to be innovative, the leaders have to think out of the box. So I think somewhere that role model has to be, the leadership brand itself has to be lived by the top leaders. So coming to you, Sarath, what would you say?
In fact, we believe in catching the leaders here. We have a leadership identification process where we map their competencies apart from the functional or technical competencies. Basically, the managerial leadership competencies and what we call leadership background. We have very good process, assessment center. There, we measure the list of competencies that are relevant to our organization or business model. Once you identify the gap, then you move them back by giving them specific training to fill up the gap so that they grow. And once they grow, naturally the problem of them, the same thing will take time. Those who are good people managers, we put them to head the areas where they will be heading the areas. Whereas there are some people who will find they are good persons, technology, research. We have a center for applied research and development. We will move them to that place. And what they say, then specifically the programs to make them understand the innovation, not only the tolerance, but the encouragement is to create an enabling atmosphere and to create the enabling atmosphere where people come out with new ideas, they experiment, and although things are encouraged, and in order to avoid any costly mistakes in the process, first we take them through creating the prototypes and also many exercises which are basically of simulating in nature.
Okay, great. So I understand young and create a culture. Those are the 2 points that you're making. Suresh, to you.
In our organization, I think one is that innovation we treat as a part of the culture. So innovation, to bring this innovation culture, we have multi-pronged, initiatives, multiple things which are there. And as Mr. Dubey was mentioning, that you have to use all parts of your initiatives, all HR levers, in order to make sure that innovation is a part of the organization culture. In terms of ensuring that leaders also are innovative and they also encourage innovation, right from the beginning, we have, as I was mentioning, multiple initiatives, wherein there are a number of projects which are given to people, and it leads to at a group level. There is what we call as Innovista, which is a forum, of people who have very novel ideas, absolutely different. They have innovated something, they have implemented, or they have seen. So it could be in the form of process, it could be a product, it could be an idea. And also there is one award, or a set of awards I would say, one category of awards is where people who have failed, they are awarded. So at Innovista level, you'll find this from all different group companies, including Tata Steel. So Tata Steel, at Tata Steel level, you'll find that there are a number of such projects which are happening. And while a project is allotted to a team, there is a person appointed as a leader who is considered to be one of the leaders, the identified hypos. So a hypo is being tested at that point of time, that how a person is leading and leading innovation, because the objective of this team and the project is innovation. So the leader is leading this project, and at the end of it, if they get awarded, rewarded, recognized, in that case it reinforces. And they move from project to project from different years. Even at the senior level, as I was mentioning, the other projects as Aspire and KBHS, this is Karvijay, Harshikar and rest of it, it is at the what we have at the talent review time, we identify certain people who are either tested to be people who have led such kind of innovation or not, because people who have reached the top there and most of the leaders at different levels, you'll find that everyone has a major project, major new novel thing which has been done through their team. They have been recognized for that, and hence you find that everyone has a tendency to do that. So in the process we have encouraged throughout the organization that doing this is not something going out of your routine, but doing this is something, a matter of pride. And that has been created, and that's how the culture of innovation.
Yeah, Rajiv.
I'm sorry, I'm breaking the rule and raising my hand. But I'd just like to pick up, you talked about giving awards for failure. I think one of the biggest problems with innovation in India is that we have such a distaste for failure. We have very low tolerance for failure. So all the time people are playing safe, not taking risks. And I think the good professor mentioned this also. So I think that's a really important thing. And the other thing I want to mention is that we don't spend enough time trying to figure out what is the problem that innovation is to solve. And I think it is so, we want to rush into finding solutions. We don't spend enough time understanding and marinating the problem. And I think that is, these are two primary reasons why we don't see too much of basic innovation as yet coming out of India, although there are examples. And we have this jugaad mentality, a very short term. Sorry for making this point.
No, I think brilliant points, both with regard to jugaad, which is sometimes confused with innovation. I think they are distinctly different. And also the thing about problem before the innovation. What is it that we are trying to solve? So ma'am, ladies last, your final words for today.
When we started the organization, and I'm going to talk about what we did, I do agree with the general, some of the general points of what we should be doing in terms of HR practices. But specifically what we have been doing from inception, when we started the organization, we wanted to build a very open culture in the organization. We wanted people to think that anything that they say will be accepted positively. And across the board, whether it is top, mid-level or lower level, we have tried our best to clarify this and build this faith in them. We started first by starting with the first name culture. We do not, in our organization, nobody calls me madam. Everybody uses my first name. And we encourage that at all levels. The reason we did that was we wanted to break the ice. You know, a lot of, when I started here, this madam sir business, people were very formal. It was very difficult to get people to talk. So in order to build a speak-up culture, it was important for us to break that ice. So we started with the first name culture. My HR girl, Resham is here, and we spent hours, trying to break this ice. And we've also collected thousands of rupees from people for using sir and madam, because that was a penalty for using sir and madam. But having said that, that was a start. But going forward, in terms of using some of the very radical or strong HR policies, we started using something called forced ranking. Everybody's aware, all the HR people are aware of it. Now, when we talked about forced ranking in the organization, as a knee-jerk reaction, everybody was opposed to it. Because they looked at it, because forced ranking, basically, very quick sentence, is ranking people in A, B, C and D category. But what we did is we tweaked it a little bit, not from what General Electric had implemented. We tweaked it to suit our conditions, our culture, and we made it more suitable to our guys, so they won't be so against it. But over the years, we have seen that people are recognizing the importance, and that's how we identify our stars. We bring them under category A, and who have to go through, these are our stars. So we will bend backwards to retain them. That is the definition of A category. That we would do whatever it takes to retain them. And then of course you have other things for B and C. For instance, C, who are below average, we would mentor them. But our focus has always been on A. Especially my personal focus has been A category, where these are our stars and we do everything to retain them, motivate them. And of course, one of the things that we do is try to sensitize them to diversity, whether it's gender diversity, age, because a lot of people senior in the organization have a lot of resistance to younger people coming on board at their level. So we sensitize them.
Terrific. So we come back from innovation to diversity, and yeah, sure, Sir.
In fact, my co-panelist spoke about the failure and the general tendency in India to distrust failure. True, having worked in public sector over the years, more than 32 years, I really feel that we work in a more or less regimented way, the conventional way of doing things, and the process of change is rather slow there, and any youngster coming up with new ideas, perhaps they are not encouraged much, but things are changing. And coming to the leadership position, there in PESB, which selects the board members, basically they focus on proven track record and the past success of leading some of the areas, their domain knowledge, and of course their administrative capabilities. Innovation hardly is a point, it's trust in any of the interviews perhaps. So that is a scenario. I thought I should tell certain frank things, down to earth things. One, to beat that, at least up to the ED level, normally we select. So what we have done to our creative think tank or the creative pool that we have in different areas, there we have told them, you just don't come out with the idea that it will succeed. Before you say it will succeed, why don't you work out on a model? Why it should not fail? So they work out, if I do this, what are the possibilities of its failure? What would be the causes of its failure? And how these causes can be plugged in.
Thank you, Sharath. All important points you've made. I would like to, for 10 minutes, I know I'm keeping you from dinner, but I'm sure you also want to ask some questions. I'd like to open up for any questions, and would request mics to be given to the people who want to ask questions. One request, please do not make your observations or comments. If you have a question, please ask. We are short on time. Yeah.
We have students volunteers around across the auditorium. So please raise your hands. They will hand over the mics to you for questions.
Yep, okay.
Yeah, otherwise, you can even send across slips.
I think it's better if you just speak out.
Good evening.
Simpler and faster.
My name is Anil Bajpai. I am the director for the School of Management of Teaching University. My question is primarily to Rajiv and Mr. Tripathi, and that is, the question is very simple. We talked about diversity and leadership, but someone we never spoke about China. China is possibly an example of
Question.
The question is it required? Is diversity required for innovation? Fundamental question.
My view is yes, it is required. And I go back to the good professor's point, the intersection, the many dots. And you can't get the many dots unless you have diversity. By the way, China is a highly diverse society. It's not homogeneous or monolithic.
No, I did not mean society. The way the multiple dots, if you go to a Chinese factory, you will realize that there is absolute zero. It's like a military concentration camp. That's the way.
At the same time, and your question is done, but the answer to that from my side, if you go to China and you compare that to the multinational kind of diversity that China has, we are nowhere near that. So your question is done, answer is done. Next, please. Yeah.
Hello, good evening. I am Pradeep. I just want to ask that in our house, we have generation gap. The young and old has the different views and opinion. Similarly, in an industrial scenario, how we address the requirement, views, outlooks of the older generation and the younger generation working together.
So Jaggi, do you face that issue? Given the kind of, difference between Generation Y and Generation X and the way different of views there in the same organization, do you face an issue like that?
But that's good, isn't it?
Yeah,
So what, how do we handle it? Sorry. Well, see, this thing happens when you have obviously when you call all the people together at the same place, you have a brainstorming. But when you set the rules that no idea will be shot down, it's only people are there just to give their ideas. Nobody is going to criticize anybody's idea. So once you set the rules and then you start the meeting or the brainstorming session, everybody is clear that they will not say no, but they will only give an idea. I think that's the way I have handled it so far, and I've had absolutely no problem. We've had people from various age groups and even genders.
Yeah, so what I hear Jaggi say is create an open culture, create a culture in which there is a tolerance for views, and that's when you will be able to connect the Generation Y from the Generation X. Okay, what else? Somebody's given me a written question, but it would be better if speak up. That's much more faster.
Good evening.
Hi.
My question is to Mr. Dubey, Mahindra & Mahindra, a great Indian company which has done tremendous amount of innovations. We have been talking about what is required to do innovation. There's a very important feature which most of the people in the developed countries talk about is that for innovation, extreme discipline is needed. You can't waste resources for a successful innovation. You can go on doing innovation, but for a successful innovation.
Question.
For creativity, reaction to this, the creativity, you have to have freedom of thought. And the society has to tolerate attitude. Do you do all that to be creative and innovative in your organization?
We try to do many things. I cannot claim that we do it perfectly. But we are believers in frugal innovation, I must add. Mahindra is known for frugal innovation. So we do innovation, and I can certainly say that there is a lot of tolerance for different points of view. I don't think as yet there is enough tolerance for failure. Anand Mahindra talks about it all the time, but I think the organization still does not stomach too much failure, and that is why perhaps we are not as innovative as we would like to be.
That's very frank, and thanks Rajiv for that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have worked with Tata Steel and on the basis of research, the book came out, Tata Steel Becoming World Class, and I was conducting field research as a primary researcher to stay 6 months, and when I approached Tata Steel, I was entering a very big way, it is freedom to fail, will to win. And that catapulted my mind and I opened up. But my question is, why Indian company, they end up creating compliance, constraint, contract, and what do you call that? Constraint, compliance, control, and construct. These four horrible C's. And they end up creating downtown Calcutta in summer context within. How can we take a shift from this downtown Calcutta in summer context? And this is a metaphor I'm saying. If you just get out of this air-conditioned plane and get down and get into the hustle and bustle of Calcutta in the month of summer, in the month of May and in summer season, you'll be perspiring and all that, and you'll be sweating, and that will be creating constraint. I'm talking about we have all that energy like you and me, like the Western people are having. But why Western people are so innovative? Though we are very diverse, they are not that diverse. In spite of having that diverse mindset we are having, why we are not that competent in terms of creating innovative things?
Good question.
Change the smell of the place. Who should answer that question?
I mean, we're talking about HR levers, but can we be very specific about the HR levers? Can we create self-efficacy? Can we create freedom to fail? And what are the levers specifically in this direction? The HR people, the HR stalwarts need to think in that direction and come out and give a solution. This is the need of the hour. We need to take this thing very seriously.
Yeah.
Okay, so here is my take. I think you need a leader who has a very firm intention to do away with these 3 C's, right?
4 C's.
Or 4 C's.
You guys, I mean, the top leader, he says, I know everything. But the outside he says freedom to fail and will to win. But he will be, this is my HR policy, this is my finance policy, this is my policy, and circulate down the line.
Then it won't happen.
And the person down below, I mean, he will look.
Sir, your question is done, so it won't happen. That's the answer.
So I think you need first of all, the intention. And unfortunately in India, a lot of things need to be driven from the top. Like Jaggi has been doing it very well. She just created the rules. So you need a leader here, and then the rest of us follow. Processes, systems, metrics, all those things will follow if the leader actually has the intention and he persists and doesn't give up too soon.
And lastly, I'm very smart.
Sir, your question is done. Suresh,
no, it's a very linked point.
No, but question is done.
Can we create meaningfulness in the work?
I'm deciding the question.
That's right. I think even in terms of those 4 C's that you mentioned, I think being a part of a society, being a part of organized way of living, I think there have to be certain governing rules. They have to be. Otherwise it becomes complete chaos. Now, how strictly you enforce, how strictly you believe in, putting those boundaries, I think that is where the difference comes. If being a part of the a country, you have to follow those laws. So you have to follow those laws. If those laws are to be followed, in that case you need to be compliant. Those are there. There are certain rules that you need to follow in terms of bringing out some semblance of sanity in the way we work. So those will be there. So you can't do away with all at any point in time. The only question is that how liberal are we? Do we use these as defined watertight boundaries, or we look at them as directions? I think that's where the difference is. So
I agree. I mean, I'm not against compliance. Some amount of compliance to be there. But can we end up creating constraint and contract?
So here the only difference. This is not a debate session. This is a question-answer session. You asked your question. Let us answer it.
Pretty well. The question is.
So that's what I'm saying. So here, if it is the boundaries and how the direction, who is giving direction, who is leading it? I think it boils down to that. how
Yes.
liberal one is in one's
So Jaggi wants to add to that.
Sir, Mohan Rao from Hyderabad.
May I just add to that? I also think, besides, I do agree with whatever you said. I just like to add that I think when you look at the Western world, especially America, which has been the most innovative country that we've known, look at Silicon Valley. I think one advantage they have is that they are a very new culture. They had to really work hard to build that country, and we had the luxury of, not having to work that hard, or not having to take those risks, not having to work in those difficult conditions. So I think that conditioned them to think outside the box, and that's why their culture is very open. So I think it's a cultural aspect in the Western world, which India is now beginning to develop. So I think it will be some time before we become that open-minded. But again, I would say, in organizations, I think it's up to the leaders to make sure that the culture is so open that anybody at any level can come up and question me. I think once that happens, people will not have the fear of asking that question.
So Jaggi, if leaders do not do that, what's going to happen to them?
If leaders do not have an open culture, people won't speak up.
So they will become like the Xerox of the world, the Motorola's of the world.
Yeah,
and so I think that's the key. Everybody, each one of us needs to be flexible, and we need one of us needs to be open to ideas, and same holds true for our leaders. Otherwise, we are ringing the death knell for the organization and for our jobs. Mohan Rao from Hyderabad gets the last question.
Yes, sir. My question is to Sharat Acharya, sir. It was good to learn that NLC encourages, to advisors, the creative tanks to think how it can fail. That's very good, sir. At least it is happening at the top level. But how can we institutionalize thinking like, what can go wrong, how it can go wrong, or what can be created, how it can be created, etc. This kind of thinking, how can we institutionalize across, large organizations like yours?
As I told you, simulations and prototypes. These are the two things where we begin, and many things depend on the hypothesis, and also after the think tank comes out with an idea, discussing with people across, in cross sections, to take their views, and also to find out from other organizations whether they tried it and where it worked or it didn't work. If it didn't work, why it didn't work. So it is not exactly replicating the thing, coming out with a new idea, but before we really go in a big way, like because we have the machines from Germany and New Zealand. Those machines one machine costs around 1,000 crores. So there, something to be done. If a major mistake happens, perhaps the cost to the company in terms of production, in terms of the machine breakdown, will be enormous. So what we do is, we tell them to create a model, run it, and there to list down what is the downtime, what is the operating time. And there we find out if the downtime is more, why was the downtime more? Then we break down, drive down in detail, which are the areas where it really failed, how it can be corrected. So along with that, we came and let me tell you, in the process, whatever Fashion Corp or Alstom and others were doing for us, all those basic materials, 80% in-house we have started doing. It is through our own people, not basically engineers, even the technicians.
Thank you, fantastic. With this, I come to an end of the panel discussion. I would really like to thank my panelists. This was really insightful.
Thank you very much for that very interesting discussion, which almost became a debate at the end. But before we end the discussion, the session, let's acknowledge our panelists with token of appreciation. May I now request Dr. Prithvi Yadav, Director BIMTech, Bhubaneswar, to assist me in giving away mementos to two of our panelists. To Mr. Ajay Soni. And the next one to Ms. Jagi Panda. Thank you very much, sir. I now request Dr. B.K. Das, Professor and Advisor of BIMTech, to give away mementos to two more of our panelists. To Mr. Rajiv Dubey. And one to Mr. Padi. Thank you very much, sir. Now, last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to call on stage the man behind the organizing the HR's roundtables, Professor Kishore Sinha, Head of HR, BIMTech. Please, sir. To Mr. Sarat Acharya. And last but not least, to Mr. Suresh Tripathi.
Let me acknowledge before all of you that it is a great experience to receive it from my Guru and mentor.
Mr. Suresh Tripathi. Thank you very much, sir. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It was a very interesting session. I now request Mr. Kamal Singh, CEO of NHRDN, to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Sarizaji. Ladies and gentlemen, I am really not coming in between the cocktail and dinner waiting for you, and nor I am going to bore you with another address. So, but I would like to have your patience for another couple of minutes just to acknowledge our appreciation for each one of you and our distinguished panel on the stage. I think you all agree with me. This session that we had organized this evening perhaps speaks many things. One, it speaks that a city like Bhubaneswar can also compete with the metropolitan cities in terms of not only your participation but also the thought leadership that is here. Bhubaneswar also speaks about it is the emerging not only city but the growth of driver of India, and therefore all of you who have come all the way from your different walks of life and the kind of time that you have spent here, you deserve a big compliment. So please do join me in giving you a very, very big compliment. And of course, our distinguished panelists on the stage, I think each one of them brought so much rich and diverse experience. And the subject that you saw, I think on one side, innovation, the other side, building diversity. I think all completely one connected to each other. When one has to look at the imperative of today's business, they cannot do without each. So with that note, our speakers, each one of them who are here, they had their own busy schedule, they have their own commitments, but yet they thought of joining us. I think they deserve certainly a big round of applause from all of us. Thank you very much for joining us and making not only BIMTech proud, but NHRDN proud. And at our leadership team meeting only this morning, it was decided that this will not be the only event in Bhubaneswar. There will be many more events coming here. I see my colleague Elora, Bobby Patnaik, Isha, and of course Saroj Mahapatra. They have all promised that they will not disappoint any one of them. And to this program that we have today presented, I would especially like to acknowledge the support of my old friend, philosopher and guide, Maqbul Bhai. Maqbul, thank you indeed. Whatever support that I count upon you, you have already given us. And it is you who have made us really proud. And finally, if you look at the three organizations, BIMTech, and you know BIMTech has emerged one of the top business school in India, and it is in Bhubaneswar. And coming of BIMTech decision of coming to Bhubaneswar also speaks the Bhubaneswar has a right. And therefore, they deserve a big compliments for supporting and also associating NHRD in reaching out to all of you, because we would like to have many more events. And they will have it, ably led by our friend Ajay Soni, who has done a commendable job in stitching this entire series of the program with Professor K.K. Sinha and of course Saliza and Dr. Das and many others. That is a big compliment. And finally, all of our student volunteer organizers, because this is, as I said, we are attempting to reach out beyond metros, and our own mandate of both BIMTech inclusiveness is one key factor, and that is we have brought under the leadership of Mr. Dubey. The diversity inclusiveness is one thing that if we want India has to make a mark, it has to be there. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us, and it is your day now. Join us for cocktail dinner. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.